My name is Angie Knight. I am a licensed speech-language pathologist. I've worked with Missouri children for over 24 years. I graduated with my master's from St. Louis University and moved to the Kansas City area. Before 2007, we started a nonprofit organization called Marian Hope Center for Children's Therapy. And we became a nonprofit in 2007, but the journey of it began before. We are in the Missouri First Steps program, and we service children birth through, now we're starting young adults with special needs groups. My heart is inclusion. My heart is that all children get the education that they deserve. I am a mom, and I have certain values of what I want my kids to have, and I value every parent's decision of what they want their children to have, because we are, first and foremost, the person in charge of our children. So we started, Marian Hope started a private school in 2013. We started because we were getting inundated. This is just a little bit of our waiting list right now. Every single piece of paper here is another story, just like some of the parents in here, just like this precious mom here and this child here. Every single week we get inundated with referrals, and we can't take these kids. And these stories break my heart. I have been in the public school system. I have sat on IEP after IEP, and I have watched it fail child after child after child. I have friends that are therapists in the public school and teachers in the public school that have a heart of gold and want to do what they know they need to do, but they can't because there's so much red tape they can't walk through. If you're going to judge my school based on standardized testing, I'm going to tell you we service many kids with dyslexia and dysgraphia. We just entered in a child in ninth grade, at maybe a third grade reading level. She never got caught. In fact, if you look at her grade card, she has straight A's up through 8th grade. Do you know what she resorted to when she got into ninth grade and she couldn't pass the system? Sex, drugs, suicide. This is a reality. We are losing this generation of kids, and I see it every day, and this list gets longer and longer and longer, and we cannot wait to fix a system that is broken. We cannot wait. We have to do something. So I did. I said, we're starting a school, and we don't have a rich population of families. We have parents that they work hard. They're blue-collar workers. We have some that come from the Kansas City School District. They come because they know their child is going to get the education they deserve. In our elementary, we cap out 8 kids in a class. Because when you're integrating and you want to meet every need, I'm not going to expect every third grader to be on the exact same reading level. That's crazy. God didn't make 2 snowflakes the same. Why would he create 2 children the same? Missouri can do better. These are our children. We need to do better. I see it day in and day out. I test children. Autism is on the rise. ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, dyslexia, schools. My speech therapist friends in public schools, they can tell you they don't have the tools, they don't have the time. These kids need intense therapy. These parents are paying buco bucks for individual therapy. Right now, my phone is dinging because we're starting a dysgraphia group because so many kids can't write. They can't get the information from their brain to their hand. And guess what? They think they're dumb, and they're not. Some of them are so bright. They have such high aptitudes, but they feel like they are not good enough. They don't have value. We need to be breathing life into this generation of children. Every decision we make as adults should be about what is best for the next generation. My choice, when I sit on my board, I will always err on what is best for the child. And I am trusting Missouri to do the same. We have to stand up. We need changes. I appreciate, I don't know a lot about the House bills. There's things I would change about both. But the House Bill 349, that speaks most to me. Because there are kids that need help with reading outside of school. There are kids that need small classrooms. They need individual attention. There are kids that verbally process. They have to talk through what they're learning. And then guess what? that solidifies it into their long-term memory. Education should match brain science. We need to be thinking about the whole brain, not just left brain, memorize, take a test. And accountability based on standardized tests so kids can fill in A, B, C, or D. What are we doing? We need creative thinkers, innovative, critical thinkers. We need to be working their executive lobes, their executive functioning. They need to be social, relational. We need to teach social skills. We're losing it. Technology is creating, it's great and it's bad. There are so many issues. And guess what? The kids are the victims of them. And I love public school teachers, I love teachers, I love therapists. Everyone's just trying to do their best. But the fact of the matter is we're losing this generation. We can't take any more kids. We have a waiting list of kids. We cap out 10 kids in a class. We're in a small little school, little church in Blue Springs. I mean, we don't have a lot of resources, but we keep our tuition costs as low as possible. We have a development director, we do events, we raise over $60,000 a year just to give money out to kids. Promise you, look at my paycheck. I'm not in this for the money. I'm not in this to market for our school or anything. I am in this for kids. I have one chance to live this life. I love children, and I am here to stand up for them. But I can't move forward unless you guys help me move forward, because I am here as a therapist to say that I will fight for the Izzies of this world. I will fight for the kids with dyslexia and dysgraphia, and I will give them the tools they need to succeed.
Okay, Mrs. Knight, thank you.
Sorry, I'm passionate.
That's all right.
But I know we've been trying to fight this for a long time, and
yes, ma'am. I want to give the committee an opportunity to ask questions. Representative Stacy, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I just want to thank you for coming up, and I appreciate you being involved in speech therapy. As you will probably know, my wife has been involved her entire career in speech therapy and works in the public school, has worked for the public school for many years. Let me just ask, it looks like to me that at the most basic level, we're trying to serve kids here. And the question really becomes, I guess, we've talked about accountability and other issues. Who is potentially in the best position? A question becomes, who is in the best position to bring accountability to the situation? And one question might be, are parents possibly in the best position to bring accountability to what might be best for their children? What do you think about that issue?
Well, yes and no. I mean, just like there's no two kids, there's no two families. Some families don't feel equipped to know. I mean, like the 9th grader. I mean, her mom never recognized, because she was getting straight A's all the way through 8th grade. She never recognized the severe deficit of her learning disabilities. What we do, we baseline every child. I know where their reading is, I know where their writing is, and I education plan based on where they are at. If they are here and I start them here, we're just going to create greater gaps. And I think what we need to do is we need to define education not based on the list of standards, but based on the child. We need to get kids literate, and we need to get them excited about learning. So I would say educators. I would say trained educators along with parents to just say, yes, my child is making progress. There's a lot of different ways to assess. It doesn't have to be on a standardized test. So
do parents really have that voice then? If we define a group of educators that this is the only educators that can define these things for your child, or do parents have an accountability process if they have the ultimate choice in determining what educators they want to choose for their children?
Well, I think parents should always have first choice, and I do think parents are the ones that need to make the choice, but I do feel like if parents need help or assistance, they should be able to get that help or assistance. We all have our different specialties, and sometimes parents need assistance in knowing how to evaluate a good quality education for their child. So I think it's community and human connection and working together with schools. A lot of the issue, I'll just be honest, I mean, 25 plus kids is a lot to keep track of as a teacher. It's just a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm a really good teacher. But when I have like so many kids and I'm grading their papers and I'm trying to scaffold their writing, we're losing great writers. We're losing great thinkers.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, anyone else?
Representative Hicks,
You kind of just, to inquire.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You kind of just hit on what my question was about. How many students do you have?
We have 100 students K through 12.
And how many teachers do you have?
We have about 16.
Okay. See, now that's a big difference there too. I have noticed a lot in the public schools when you just mentioned the 25, 30 kids in a classroom with one teacher.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something, I'm not trying to take away from teachers, but if you got students like me that, I had learning disability in a different way. It was more of the anger side. I didn't want to be there.
Right.
I was just there to eat. I was literally just there for lunch and breakfast to go to school. But the one thing that I noticed was a teacher named Mrs. Beckett, and I remember her name still to this day, God rest her soul. But she's the one that stuck out to me because she's the one that came to me and said, you're on your own. In my classroom, I help you. But the other classrooms, because in junior high at that time, you went from classroom to classroom. I don't know if they still do. My kids go to private school and they don't even have lockers anymore. But and that was one of the things that I realized is that with the classrooms, the sizes they are, that's why my children go to a private school and not a public school, because some of the rooms we looked at had 30 children in them and one teacher. And I know that between my two boys, they're not the same. No. One of them struggles a little bit. One of them's a straight A student, and the kid drives me nuts because I was never able to just take a test and pass it. Right. He can literally study the night before and pass a test. I don't know how. My other son struggles bad. Right. And it's hard for him. He's got a little bit of a learning disability, I guess, because he struggles more so than my other boy. But I've noticed that the smaller the classrooms at their private schools, they get a little bit more one-on-one with their teachers. And is that what yours seeing?
And it allows us to be creative, like where every kid has a strength, every kid has a passion. That's what we need to find. We can't just cookie cutter curriculum and this is what they need to learn and that's it. Like project-based learning, some kids are doers. Let them be a doer.
Well, you keep your attitude.
So I'm sorry, I'm passionate, but yes.
Well, Miss Beckett was the same way, and that's why I remember her. So you just keep that passion.
And you have to breathe it into kids, and I think that's my thing. I know we have money and we have a system, but I just ask that you just say what is best for the kids in Missouri. And it is time. We need to shift things around, and it gets ugly. It gets messy when we have to make changes. But change can be so good, and these kids will thank you someday. So,
thank you,
God bless all.
Any other questions for the witness? Representative Baker.
To inquire quickly. Thank you so much for your passion. Thank you for what you do. I really do appreciate it. One quick question that I think you would be suited to answer. Overall support of tax credit scholarship programs, ESAs, has been growing. Since 2016, I think 3 out of 5, 58%. And you held up the file of those people that are applying, but you can't accept all of them. What is kind of the general theme that you're hearing from some of those parents and some of those people, and why do you think that trend is growing for support of these type of programs?
Well, I do think the pandemic has kind of unraveled some of the issues going on in the education classroom. I think you have a lot of course, fall through the crack kids. They can't get an IEP because they're not low enough. I mean, we have a lot of those kids out there, and so I think when parents see them at home struggling and they're not just rolling them through, that there is, and there's a lot of social, emotional, mental health issues going on. I mean, I'm not even going to get into all the health issues that we even have. There's just a lot on this generation of kids, a lot. Education, they need help. We need answers and we need solutions. So, but there is definitely an epidemic. There are more and more kids with special needs. There are more and more kids that are not fitting this box that we've created for them to fit into. So we've got to get creative in how we're evaluating. We've got to get creative in how we're teaching.
Thank you for that. See, it's of my personal opinion that no dollar amount could ever fix all the problems that we have in education. If we were to say to all the education organizations that come to every one of these hearings and oppose school choice, what number would it take for you to be satisfied in public education to say that you were to be able to address all the needs of our children in the public education system? I don't think they could provide that number, and I think that if they did, it still wouldn't be enough. So that goes back to the question of how do we address these problems? I think that what you just said is exactly how I feel, and that is our kids of today are dealing with issues that no amount of money can fix. So the best thing that we can do is offer better solutions to be able to address their needs in those situations. So we have to think outside the box. We've got to get outside of that, and thank you so much for your perspective.
Well, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the lady? Thank you, Mrs. Knight, very much. Yeah.